Ironman is a sport that has captured the imagination of the international sporting public for well over 3 decades. It's a sport that has come to personify the very essence of human endeavour, drawing hundreds of thousands of pilgrims the world over to challenge themselves in one of the sport's great theatres. Starting way back in 1978, today there are over 100 Ironman races staged around the world, and yet one event stands the test of time: Ironman Australia, one of the sport's founding races. Ironman Australia, a race that helped shape the sport's evolution, now turns 30. It's a race warmly embraced by a nation, a race steeped in history and tradition, a community race known the world over. A breeding ground for so many champions and a foundation race at the very core of the Ironman phenomena. Welcome to the 30th anniversary of one of the world's truly iconic races. This is Toyota Ironman Australia, Port Macquarie. Located on the mid-north coast of New South Wales, Port Macquarie is a popular tourism spot located just an hour's flight north of Sydney. With its stunning coastline and picturesque course, Toyota Ironman Australia has drawn almost 2,000 competitors to compete in one of the world's toughest sporting arenas. Today's race will feature a 3.8-kilometre swim, followed by a 180-kilometre cycle. And if they're still standing, a 42.2-kilometre run to the finish. Now in its 30th year, Ironman Australia is one of the longest-running Ironman events in the world, and the 2015 race has drawn a world-class pro women's field, headed by the 2 New Zealand champions, Melanie Burke and Michelle Bremer, Michelle Gailey and Jessica Fleming from Australia, and last year's runner-up, Lisa Marangon.
I'm really excited. Ironman Australia was my first ever Ironman that I did back in 2003. Well, if I potentially win, the 30th would be very special, be a very emotional day.
Lisa Marangon into second place, and rightly so, she's delighted. Gutsy performance from Lisa Marangon today.
Last year was quite tough, and it really suits me because I'm a strong athlete, and especially the bike.
It's a race graced by so many former champions, and Marangon knows it'll take something special to win the 30th title.
Michelle Gailey's won Ironman Australia before, so she knows how to win, so she could potentially be a threat. Christy Sims, she's a good all-round athlete. She's quite strong with all 3 disciplines. I'm not sure about the international races. I've never raced against them, but I'm just excited to get out there and do what I know what I need to do.
As if to reinforce Ironman Australia's strong international standing, this year's race has once again attracted a world-class pro men's field, which includes last year's runner-up Paul Ambrose, evergreen champion Luke Bell, Peter Robinson and Graham O'Grady from New Zealand. But all eyes will be on the 2011 Australian Ironman champion and 2012 world champion Peter Jacobs, to see if he can put behind a disappointing season and recapture some of his former glory. Jacobs is back to celebrate the 30th anniversary, and this will be his 5th Australian Ironman.
It's such a good race here, and just the community that we have in this sport. I've had a few little health issues this year, and so I want to ride well, swim with the front group, ride with the front group, and then we'll just see what happens on the run. It really is anyone's game at that point. Last person to slow down wins. So, you know, I'm hoping that there's something in the bank that I've been resting up for.
Jacobs knows he's a big scalp and is expecting tough competition.
Definitely beat Robbo, and you know, he raced in Melbourne but didn't finish, so he's definitely, you know, was ready to race, you know, a month ago. And then I think Graham O'Grady is going to be good. He's always in good, consistent form. And Paul Ambrose, you know, he likes this course, and he's going to be, you know, hard to beat as well.
Like so many Ironman competitors, Jacobs recognises the sport's proud history, and he has a great respect for the athletes who made the sport what it is today.
The sport just draws them back, you know, the passion of it, the history of it, you know, they really just can't stay away. You know, it's a little bit of a habit, but it's also a little bit of, you know, they want to see those friends and that family that they've built up around the sport and stay in contact with it.
To mark the 30th anniversary of the iconic race, many of the original participants and legends past and present have been invited to compete and to return to where it all began. For legendary Ironman David Ross competing in his 30th consecutive race, it's like a field of dreams and a chance to celebrate a special part of his life with close friends.
Oh, we certainly did not know what we were getting into. And I can tell you now, ignorance is bliss. The less you know, the better.
Obviously doing the first one was pretty special, and it was so cold that they were hauling people out of the water before they even got halfway around the course.
Look, the first race I did it out of stupidity. It was ignorance.
85. We had no idea what we were doing. I had not ridden more than about 80k before my first Ironman, so the whole day was a struggle.
Australia was like the proving ground, and it was where they cut their teeth, so to speak, because they knew the competition was going to be tough. They knew that it was going to be a beautiful, beautiful, iconic place, which it is. And they also knew that the knowledge of the spectators and the Ironman athletes, it was like their lifeblood to be a part of Ironman.
What gets people really coming back to this, it is a homespun event. Although it's got international appeal and it's got international standards, the fundamental part of this is that it's a homespun event, and people feel like they're coming home to their old mates, their old crew. This is one event which really does epitomise the Ironman spirit.
This race was the first ever in Australia, so I think it has a certain amount of just, you know, the local people just love it. They really do.
I'd like to say that it goes beyond just being a race. It is a life. It is a lifestyle.
Having all of our friends come back year after year, that's what makes it rewarding for us. And even when you're having those bad years, you've got friends out there that, you know, they'll walk along beside you and they'll say, Teresa, you know, walk with me. I'm so emotional already just thinking about it because I know that's what's going to happen on Sunday.
This will be my 15th one, and every finish line that you cross in an Ironman is still magic.
I might be getting a little bit slower as the years progress, but just so long as I can, first of all, make the start line, even better, so long as I can make the finish line. That's the main objective of the race.
Following days of heavy rain, the competitors wake to a spectacular skyline over Port Macquarie, the spiritual home of Ironman racing in Australia. Plenty of nerves as the pro athletes prepare themselves for the long road ahead. 6:30 a.m. and the gun goes off. The 18 pro men's field are away. The stronger swimmers like Bell and Jacobs jostle for clear water, looking to stamp their authority early in the race. The 3.8-kilometre swim snakes its way along the Hastings River, where the athletes have to navigate a weir before making the trip back again. Recent heavy rain has cooled the water, but the calm conditions should make for a fast swim. While the men battle it out in the swim, the pro women's field prepare for a start. It's a strong field featuring 11 girls.
It doesn't get more Aussie than
Months, sometimes years of training will now come down to this one special day. Early into the men's race, and it's the Australian pair Luke Bell and Peter Jacobs and the New Zealander Graham O'Grady with a 15-second lead over Paul Ambrose, with a chase group a further 7 seconds back. Ironman racing is all about pacing yourself over a long day, and it's important to play to your strengths. Bell, Jacobs and O'Grady stay in a tight-knit group, slowly extending their lead. Early in the women's race, and it's a tight field headed by Lisa Marangon and Michelle Gailey, who won the race back in 2012. While the pro athletes battle it out for line honours, thousands of age groupers prepare for the longest day of their lives. For many of them, it's less about trophies and more about survival. For some, it will be the hardest and yet most rewarding day of their lives. As expected, it's Lisa Marangon well out in front early in the race, opening a commanding 20-second lead over Michelle Gailey. Everyone's just trying to stay in touch early in the race. Meanwhile, the age groupers are out in force, and it's a sea of colour as they look for clear passage along the busy Hastings River. Further up course, the men make their way over the weir before re-entering the water. There's nothing between the three leaders, headed by Graham O'Grady, Bell in second, and Jacobs looking comfortable in third. Marangon continues to open the gap on Gailey, moving further ahead as she crosses the weir. Gailey's in no panic and knows there's a long way to go. Now deep into the second half of the swim, and it's still Bell, O'Grady and Jacobs setting the pace and continuing to extend their lead. Paul Ambrose in fourth position is almost a minute 30 off the lead group, but well ahead of a second chase group, which includes Kerrin, Baldwin, Robertson and Fuller. Meanwhile, the age groupers, representing over 40 nations, stretch across a 2-kilometre range. In just under 45 minutes, O'Grady, Bell and Jacobs complete the 3.8-kilometre swim, exiting the water well ahead of Ambrose in fourth. Working together, the trio has a commanding lead as they enter transition in readiness for the 180-kilometre cycle leg. Unlike the men's race, Marangon is doing it all on her own and extends her lead in the back end of the swim. Ambrose exits the water in fourth. O'Grady is first out of the blocks and leads Bell and Jacobs out of transition onto the bike. Ambrose will be confident knowing he has a strong bike leg. The men's chase group featuring Kerrin, Baldwin, Robertson and Fuller exit the water 3.5 minutes further back. O'Grady, now in the lead, looks at any number of threats behind.
Go, Robbo! Come on, Robbo!
Marangon exits the water, looking very strong, finishing in a time of 51.58, almost a half minute in front of Michelle Gailey in second. early in the bike leg, and it's O'Grady out in front, making the most of the perfect conditions. The bike course consists of two 90-kilometre laps. Starting in Port Macquarie, the course heads 45 kilometres south along Ocean Drive to Laurieton, then heads back into town before it's repeated all over again for a total of 180 kilometres. So after the swim leg, it's O'Grady out in 44.55, Bell 44.57, Jacobs 44.58, Ambrose in 47.33, followed by Kieran 5th, Baldwin 6th, Robertson and Fuller. In the women's race, Marangon cuts a lonely figure as she rides alone in first position. Michelle Bremer has already made up time on the bike and moves into second, with Michelle Gailey third and Christy Sim in fourth. And so, after the women's swim, it's Lisa Marangon first in 51.58, followed by Michelle Gailey in 52.53, Christy Sim in third, Michelle Bremer fourth, followed by Gregory, Wu and Sorrell. A former world champion, Peter Jacobs carries a huge weight of expectation in front of his home crowd, and so far, everything is going to plan. Back in fourth position, almost 4 minutes back, Paul Ambrose leads a chase group that includes Baldwin, Robertson and Fuller. Caroline Gregory from the US loses time on the bike and drops to 6th position. Marie Sorel 5th. Jessica Fleming in 4th, and with Christy Sim now in her sights. And while the pro athletes battle it out on the bike, a procession of age group athletes make their way into transition.
First Ironman.
How are you finding it?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It was a long swim. Good day, good sunny day.
Yeah, it was great. Felt really fast.
It's going good, a bit cold in the water.
Fantastic, I'm having a great time.
It's exciting, I love it. So I'm looking forward to the ride.
Just the last 20 k's of the run, that's all we've got to worry about.
One swim and a cup of tea. Well, haven't had this much fun since dancing with my sister. It's absolutely marvellous, I love it. You know? Number 30 for me today, 30 around the world, number 14 here. But I've got to finish. Give me a kiss, will you? Get me in, Kappa. Thanks, Papa.
At the 43-kilometre mark of the bike, it's still Jacobs, O'Grady and Bell sharing the lead, with Ambrose a further 1 minute 49 back. Jacobs looks in control, and with his strongest leg to come, the run, the early signs are promising. With the temperature now at 23 degrees and with no wind, the age groupers make the most of the idyllic riding conditions. For most of them, it will be a ride of 6 hours or more. It's a great battle out in front in the women's race, with Bremer and Marangon continuing to share the lead, with Sim a further 2 minutes back. Marangon was second in last year's race, and she's desperate to go one better this year. As Jacobs, O'Grady and Bell head back towards Port Macquarie with the big news, Paul Ambrose in fourth is starting to catch the lead group as he breaks away from the second chase group, featuring Fuller, Baldwin and Robertson. It's Australia versus New Zealand out in front, with Bremer and Marangon dictating the race and gradually extending their lead over Christy Sim in third, a further 2 minutes adrift. Sim is back in good form following a year off with injury that nearly saw her retire from the sport. 76 kilometres into the bike, Bell and Jacobs have dropped O'Grady, who has fallen almost 5 minutes back. Ambrose is now in third, just 2 minutes 40 behind, and continues to make up ground. Fuller, Baldwin and Robertson are now 4th, 5th and 6th respectively. Marangon knows that Michelle Bremer is a stronger runner, and she decides now is the time to attack and shake off her New Zealand rival. Bremer is content to let her go, knowing her time to strike will come later in the race.
Make sure you get it on camera when the bunch catches me, hey? Oh, they're not far behind.
Jacobs looks comfortable out in front, and if he carries this position into the run, he will be hard to beat. He takes on plenty of fluids, with nutrition one of the keys to Ironman success. The hill incline at Matthew Flinders Drive is so steep, it's now part of Ironman folklore. Bell sticks right on Jacobs' tail, while Ambrose continues to edge closer. Fuller, Baldwin and Pete Robertson remain in 4th, 5th and 6th. Meanwhile, O'Grady, now back in 7th, explains his predicament.
My lever got loose. Said to stop and fix it. Rough roads. Think you can make up the time? Hey, reckon you can make up the time? It's a long day. Still got a marathon.
O'Grady hasn't given up just yet. Lisa Marangon continues to increase her margin over second place Bremer. Three hours, 6 minutes into the race, and Jacobs reaches the halfway point of the bike leg with a 1 minute lead on Luke Bell. Big crowds greet the two world-class athletes as they enter the heart of Port Macquarie before heading south to do it all again and a second 90-kilometre lap. Ambrose enters the halfway point in third, a further 2 minutes behind Bell, and is well and truly in the hunt. It's exciting to see the thoroughbred Jacobs dominating out in front. He promises so much, and Australia is yet to see the best of him on home soil. Meanwhile, 30-year race veteran Dave Ross exits transition.
How's it going, Dave?
Oh, good so far, good. Slow but good.
30 in a row. How's this compared to the other 29?
Tell you what, I'm showing the age.
Three and a half hours into the race, and the Australian Lisa Marangon reaches the halfway point of the bike leg. A full minute in front of her nearest rival, Michelle Bremer from New Zealand. Large crowds are out in force to spur on the competitors. Bremer looks good in second as she tries to stay with Marangon. So, halfway through the bike leg, and it's Pete Jacobs in first, Luke Bell second, Paul Ambrose third, Brian Fuller 5 minutes further back in fourth, with Robertson and Baldwin right on his tail. Jacobs and Bell know the threat of Ambrose looms large. He's on the charge and closing fast. Baldwin is also making ground on the front three. Three-time short course world champion Peter Robertson has seen it all before. What he lacks in full distance racing, he more than makes up for with shrewd racing. Trying to put the disappointment of mechanical problems behind him, O'Grady looks to make up lost ground. Marangon's now well out in front, but Bremer refuses to go away, and despite Marangon's constant charges, she continues to stay in touch. Marangon's biggest threat looks like it will come from fellow Australian Jessica Fleming, now back in third, but closing in on Bremer and pushing hard for second. Christy Sims looking to remain positive after the disappointment of a drafting penalty.
Right.
This one just around the corner.
Michelle Gailey in fifth remains well in contention. She won the race in 2012, and she'll come home strongly in the run. We've talked long and hard about the credentials of Peter Jacobs, and here's why when you see such an impressive resume headed by the World Championship victory in Hawaii in 2013. 115 kilometers into the bike, and the race begins to unfold. In a big moment, Ambrose finally catches and passes Bell, moving into second. It's a telling blow. Bell looks tired, and he's caught off guard by the ferocity of Ambrose's assault and has to gather himself. While Peter Jacobs and Lisa Marangon lead the way, thousands of age groupers scatter the bike course, stretching almost 45 kilometers from Laurieton in the south to Port Macquarie in the north, with the crowds out in force to support them. Marangon continues to lead the women's race by over 2 minutes, and while she's left Bremer in her wake, it's Jessica Fleming posing the biggest threat. Fleming is now less than a minute behind Bremer and closing fast. Brian Fuller is a Port Macquarie local, and he knows the course intimately, with the advantage of a homegrown crowd to support him. Suddenly, the race turns on its head, with Jacobs unexpectedly stalling. His 3-minute lead rapidly evaporates, and it's now down to just 37 seconds, with Ambrose and Bell closing in, and it's now opened the race right up. Nick Baldwin also makes up ground, moving clear of Fuller and Robertson and closing the gap on Bell. Incredibly, at the 135-kilometre mark, Bell and Ambrose both pass Jacobs and are 43 seconds in front. Something is definitely not right with Jacobs, and he struggles to hold on to third, with Baldwin now moving in for the kill. So far, Paul Ambrose has ridden the perfect bike leg. He now leads the race, and with Jacobs all but seen off, he's moved 40 seconds clear of Bell and looks full of confidence. With all the drama unfolding in the men's race, Marangon's job looks easy in comparison. Her strategy is simply to build as much of a buffer as she can to give herself the best possible chance on the run. Fleming makes little headway on the leader Marangon, but she's moved clear of fourth and fifth, and she's now within striking distance of Bremer in second place. Bremer gallantly holds on to second. The chasers have been closing the gap on her all day, but she continues to fight, knowing that her best leg is still to come. Ambrose climbs Matthew Flinders Drive for the last time as he makes his way back into town and the bike finish, and looks in great shape. Bell continues to fall further behind Ambrose, and he looks in a world of pain. Fleming finally catches Bremer and flies past into second. She's made up well over 5 minutes on Bremer since the swim, and is now on the hunt for Marangon. Nothing is going to stop Marangon from leading the bike into transition. It's just a matter of by how much and whether she's got the legs to bring it home. Ambrose now heads into the bike run transition and is warmly greeted by the crowd. It's been a strong ride, and he's set himself up perfectly for a shot at the 30th title. Marangon and Fleming are both charging home on the bike. Fleming leaves her run late and makes up for lost time with a big push towards the finish, also putting herself in the frame for the title. Bremer's been resolute and now looks to consolidate third, with Christy Sim now closing in. Bell enters transition almost 7 minutes behind Ambrose. It's been a tough ride. In 2013, Bell ran 2:53 to win Ironman Australia. In 2012, Ambrose ran a 2:57 marathon to win. So if past experience is anything to go by, Bell has the speed to catch Ambrose. Either way, the 2015 title will come down to whoever has the freshest legs. Following a brilliant ride, Ambrose sets up the race perfectly. It's now a matter of holding the run together. Hugging the picturesque Hastings River, the 42-kilometre scenic run course takes the athletes along Settlement Point Road and back into town, which they will repeat 4 times before the finish downtown. Back from the wilderness, Jacobs enters transition, but he doesn't look happy. It's highly unusual for him to give up so much time on the bike, and it's obvious that all is not well. Bell is on the charge and on a mission to rein in Ambrose, and if he stays fit, he has the running form to catch Ambrose. So after an outstanding bike leg, it's Paul Ambrose in first, 7 minutes ahead of Bell. Baldwin in third, just over a minute behind Bell, with Fuller, Jacobs and O'Grady making up the placings and still in the mix. Lisa Marangon charges into transition after a command performance on the bike and finishes the leg in a time of 6 hours, 7 minutes. Baldwin remains in third, 8 minutes behind Ambrose, with news just in that Peter Robertson has withdrawn from the race. The man on the move looks to be Brian Fuller, who's quickly chasing down Baldwin for third position, erasing a 3-minute deficit in quick time. Jessica Fleming enters T2 in good shape. She's only 2.5 minutes down on Marangon and has given herself a fighting chance. The two race leaders, Ambrose and Marangon, run together, but looks can be deceptive, with Marangon a lap behind. While they both enjoy the lead, they both face looming threats, which are fast approaching. Still early stages in the run, but already Bell takes time off Ambrose. Baldwin starts to slow, with Fuller about to take him for third. And while the pro men pound the pavement in the 42-kilometre run, the rest of the field still toil away on the bike. Even Elvis was out this year, putting on a little show, much to the amusement of the competitors. One of the endearing traits that define Ironman Australia, one of the longest running Ironman events in the world, is the support the athletes receive. It's an event warmly embraced by the local community, and every year they turn out in force to celebrate the great race. For the athletes, it's the perfect antidote, and for a fleeting moment, they can forget about their pain and suffering. Word is just out that race leader Marangon is in trouble and has slowed down dramatically. Jessica Fleming, on the other hand, is on full charge and is quickly reeling in the deficit. Michelle Bremer enters transition, 5.5 minutes off the lead, but the tall Kiwi has the best running credentials of the lead girls. She's certainly more than capable of bridging the gap. Ambrose knows Bell is slowly closing in. This is where Ironman racing can be so tough. Ambrose knows he's got a real race on his hands, and he's going to be pushed every step of the way to the finish. Ambrose is hurting. He knows Bell is closing in and draws inspiration from the vocal crowd support. Fuller now moves into third, with Baldwin dropping back to fourth. Michelle Gailey is back in fifth, almost 16 minutes behind the leader. So with a bike leg completed, it's Marangon in first, Jessica Fleming second, Christy Sim in third, Bremer in fourth, 5 minutes 30 seconds off the lead, and Michelle Gailey fifth. Ambrose is focused on one thing, and that's getting to the finish line in the quickest possible time. At times he's doubted himself, and the next hour will put him to the ultimate test. It's a classic showdown between Bell and Ambrose, two former Australian Ironman champions, both chasing their second Australian title. Fuller continues to impress in third, but he's over 11 minutes behind the two leaders. In a race that continues to unfold, Jessica Fleming is now the new women's leader, passing Marangon, who drops back to second. Marangon doesn't look well, and she may have gone too hard on the bike, opening the door for Fleming to pounce. Ambrose continues to lead the way, but he knows that Bell looms large and is taking 30 seconds off his lead every 1.5 kilometres. With Bell closing the gap, the stage is set for a dramatic finish. Almost 7 hours into the race, and ignoring the pain and overbearing fatigue, Bell continues to push the pace. Like Ambrose, Fleming also has a shadow lurking, with the news that Kiwi Michelle Bremer is rapidly closing in and now in third position. News in that former race leader Lisa Marangon has also succumbed to the race and has walked off the course in distress. The race is really starting to unravel, with Sim now in second, just 19 seconds back from Fleming, with Bremer closing fast, just over 2 minutes further back. Following a strong bike leg, Baldwin struggles on the run and continues to lose time. Fuller is content to try and hold on to third place and knows Ambrose and Bell are now out of touch. Bell is now just over 2 minutes 20 behind Ambrose and continues to reduce the margin. The race is set for a thrilling finale between two great athletes, and with the word out, huge crowds build in anticipation of a dramatic showdown. Like the men's race, the women's race is rapidly developing, with the Kiwi powerhouse Bremer now just 17 seconds behind and about to take over Fleming for the lead. The women's race continues to change, with 2012 champion Michelle Gailey coming home strong, passing Sim to move into third position. Bremer looks unstoppable as she charges forward, with Fleming now in sight. The pain is etched all over Ambrose's face. He's been in front now for over 3 hours, and he's not going to give up without a fight. Bell gains ground with every stride and is now less than 2 minutes behind. 30-year race veteran Dave Ross exits transition.
Oh, guys.
Hey Dave, how's it going?
Not good.
How's it feeling?
Oh, terrible. We'll just get through this one, and then we'll just rest a bit worn out. Actually, the old bones. After 30 of them, it's there or a lot there. But yeah, we'll get there this one. Yeah, that's as far as I'll go.
It's late in the race, and Ambrose draws on his last reserves of energy. Ironman racing is not just about the physical demands. It's as much a mental challenge as it is physical. The crowd know Bell is catching, and they cheer him on in the hope of a miracle win. Fuller's now in a world of trouble and stalls to a walk. The pace is starting to take its toll. Fleming desperately tries to hold on, but it's all in vain. Bremer is only seconds behind, and Fleming has nothing left to counter. Gailey's had an outstanding run. After exiting the bike in 5th, she's made up over 8 minutes on her rivals. Finally, it's the moment of reckoning, and Bremer breezes past Fleming. With barely a glance, she shoots ahead. For Fleming, it's a shattering moment, and she realizes victory is lost, and it's now a matter of staying strong and protecting second place. With the finish drawing closer, Ambrose somehow manages to find renewed energy, and for the first time in a long drawn-out battle, realizes he's managed to hold off Bell. Suddenly, all the pain and anguish is replaced by pure ecstasy as he enters the finish chute, much to the delight of a roaring crowd. Ambrose is overwhelmed by the occasion and overcome with emotion. It's been a brave, hard-fought win, and he secures the Toyota Ironman Australia Championship for the second time. Bell puts in a brave performance, but has to settle for second. But he can be proud of his immense effort. Despite the rivalry, there's great respect between the two athletes who fought a heroic battle. Fuller recovers well to finish in 3rd. For Ambrose, the win means everything.
It's been a long time since I've had an Ironman win, and yeah, I just wanted to prove to my friends, myself mostly, and everyone else out there that, you know, I've still got it and still got a bit of potential out there. So, and this race growing up was like, you know, one of my favourite races, just watching. So to come out here and repeat another win, it means everything.
And so, after 8.5 grueling hours, it's Ambrose with the title, Bell gallant in 2nd, Fuller 3rd, Luke Martin with a late surge finishing 4th, Baldwin 5th, Reed 6th, and Pete Jacobs rounding out the top 10. For the first time in the race, Bremer can relax, knowing only injury can stop her now. For Fleming, the finish line can't come soon enough. She knows Gailey is making up ground. Gailey's put in a solid run and now has almost 7 minutes on her nearest rival. Finally, 9 hours 38 minutes into the race, Michelle Bremer enters the finish chute. It's a brilliant performance, and she's worked her way through the field to win in emphatic style. The win is a huge moment in her career. Fleming is delighted with 2nd, and she's just happy to finish. And Michelle Gailey finishes in 3rd. For Bremer, it's all about living the moment.
Oh, it means the world. I'm so happy. I won my very first Ironman back in 2011, and I was just so stunned it didn't feel real. So I kind of finished and I didn't really celebrate, so I made sure that I treated the moment coming down the line today.
In the end, it's a magnificent win to the Kiwi Michelle Bremer, taking the Australian Ironman title 4 minutes ahead of Fleming in 2nd, Gailey finishing in 9 hours 50 ahead of Sorrell, Gregory and Wu. But Ironman racing is not just about the elite. And while the pros are resting their heels, thousands of age groupers are still out on the course. One of the great challenges of Ironman racing is pacing yourself over such a long day, with self-preservation just as important as the racing. Whether it's personal milestones or just trying to finish the race, everyone has their own unique story to tell. It's all about testing yourself in one of sport's toughest arenas. Crossing the line is victory in itself, and all the pain and suffering quickly turns to euphoria. Starting at 7 a.m, some of the athletes won't finish the race until midnight. Once again, Toyota Ironman Australia has lived up to all expectations, with the rich tradition set to continue for many years to come. Many of the former greats of the race congregate at the finish line to celebrate and reflect on one of the world's great Ironman races.
Absolutely wonderful. It's so nice to be back here after so many years. Actually, I've never done this race, so it was really nice to do it. It's a tough race.
And when you come down that finish line, do you still feel the same euphoria as you did in years gone by?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just, you know, that's really what the race is all about, is that last like 100 metres, 50 metres down the finishing chute.
I'm 66, and I tell you what, it gets harder every year. This is my 40th Ironman, and so 15 here is good, but I've got 15 Hawaii's too, so.
It is definitely one of my most favorite places to race. I love the people, I love the atmosphere. It is an amazing event, and it's been great. I'm just so happy to be invited back. There's so much history here, and to see it celebrate its 30th anniversary. I mean, this is one of the iconic races. There's so many Ironmans now around the world, but the certain ones that stand out in people's minds because they've survived, and this is one of them that survived.
And so, after an arduous 6-hour run, Ironman legend Dave Ross completes his 30th consecutive Ironman Australia race in front of a huge crowd, finishing in a time of 15 hours 33 and firmly establishing himself as a true immortal of the sport and a great testament of the Ironman spirit.
Oh, this is just the icing on the cake. Yeah, no, it's, you know, everyone, when you get on and every year gets harder.
What's it mean crossing the finish line with all that crowd revving you on?
Words can't describe. Words can't describe. They're just so enthusiastic, and it's a big part of my life. It's a big chunk of my life.
What's the motivation?
Oh, it's these guys. Yeah. What else? You know, they're an Ironman family. You know, you've got no brains and happy without them. But you know, they're happy little Vegemites. You know, so you know, we've got to come back and we love it.
Well, if you're feeling motivated by what you've seen today, let me tell you that triathlon is a sport that is as rewarding as it is inspiring. Whether it's just a fitness goal, an individual or team's event, anyone can join the Ironman family by participating in events located all over the world. Ironman changes lives, shapes character, and continues to show that anything is possible. To find out more about how to be part of triathlon and the Ironman community, visit ironman.com or connect with the movement through Twitter.